Hi, my name is John Boyne and I'm the author of this new novel, The Heart's Invisible Furies. I'm going to read the opening couple of pages of this, which is set in 1945 in West Cork. Long before we discovered that he had fathered two children by two different women, one in Drimoleague and one in Clonakilty, Father James Monroe stood on the altar of the Church of Our Lady, Star of the Sea, in the parish of Goleen, West Cork, and denounced my mother as a whore. The family was seated together in the second pew, my grandfather on the aisle using his handkerchief to polish the bronze plaque engraved to the memory of his parents that was nailed to the back of the woodwork before him. He wore his Sunday suit, pressed the night before by my grandmother, who twisted her jasper rosary beads around her crooked fingers and moved her lips silently until he placed his hand atop hers and ordered her to be still. My 6 uncles, their dark hair glistening with rose-scented lacquer, sat next to her in ascending order of age and stupidity. Each was an inch shorter than the next, and the disparity showed from behind. The boys did their best to stay awake that morning. There had been a dance the night before, and they'd come home mouldy with the drink, sleeping only a few hours before being roused by their father for Mass. At the end of the row, beneath a wooden carving of the 10th station of the cross, sat my mother, her stomach fluttering in terror at what was to come. She hardly dared to look up. The Mass began in the typical fashion, she told me, with the priest's wearied discharge of the introductory rites and the congregation's discordant singing of the Kyrie. William Finney, a neighbour of my mother's from Ballydevlin, made his way in all his pomposity to the pulpit for the first and second liturgical readings, clearing his throat into the heart of the microphone before pronouncing every word with such dramatic intensity that he might have been performing on the stage of the Abbey Theatre. Father Monroe, perspiring noticeably under the weight of his vestments and the intensity of his anger, followed with the gospel before inviting everyone to be seated, and 3 red-cheeked altar boys scurried to their side bench, exchanging excited glances. "My family are all Goleen as far as records go," he began, looking out at 150 raised heads and a single bowed one. "I heard a terrible rumour once that my great-grandfather had family in Bantry, but I never saw any evidence to justify it. My mother, a good woman, loved this parish. She went to her grave having never left a few square miles of West Cork and didn't regret it. Good people live here, she always told me. Good, honest Catholic people. And do you know something? I never had cause to doubt her. Until today." There was a ripple around the church. "Until today," repeated Father Monroe slowly, shaking his head in sorrow. "Is Catherine Goggin in attendance this morning?" He looked around as if he had no idea where he might find her, even though she'd been seated in the same pew every Sunday morning for the past 16 years. In a moment, the head of every man, woman and child present turned in her direction. "Catherine Goggin, there you are," said the priest. "Come up here to me now, like a good girl." My mother stood up slowly and made her way towards the altar, a place she had only ever been before, to take communion. Her face was not scarlet, she would tell me years later, but pale. The church was hot that day, hot with the sticky summer and the breath of excited parishioners, and she felt unsteady on her feet, worrying that she might faint and be left on the marble floor to wither and rot as an example to other girls her age. She glanced at Father Monroe nervously, meeting his rancorous eyes for only a moment before turning away. "As if butter wouldn't melt," said Father Monroe, looking out at his flock and offering a half-smile. "How old are you now, Catherine?" he asked. 16, Father," said my mother. 16. Now lift your head and look out at your neighbours, at your own mother and father who've lived decent Christian lives and bring credits to the parents who went before them, at your brothers who we all know to be fine, upstanding young men. Do you see them, Catherine Goggin?" "I do, Father. I do. That will be the only time you ever utter those words in a church. Do you realise that? There'll never be a wedding day for you. Your hands are going to your fat belly, I see. Is there a secret there that you're hiding?"